Hello, angels. Welcome back to my channel. If you are a member of my community, you know that I am a practicing psychic. I am a third generation psychic. It's a big part of the work I do now. And if you're new to my channel, there you go. A little bit about me. I just got back from a really healing, really activating trip to Sedona. And while I was there, this was actually on the heels of another family trip that got a little chaotic. So felt like it was coming at just the right time. Thank you, angel babies, of course, always being taken care of. Mwah. And as I was driving to Sedona, I thought maybe I'll get a massage. Maybe I'll get a Reiki session. I don't know. I could use it. And then I thought, you know what? I kind of want to get a psychic reading. And that really stayed with me. The first time that I went to Sedona, I was 14. I was with my mom and we went someplace and I got an amazing psychic reading at that time. So I knew I wanted to do this and I ended up being called to what looked like the cheesiest place in Sedona. And I thought that might have been the same place I had gone when I was young. And I was looking through the pictures. No one was really calling to me. So I went back again, looked at him again, and I found a woman who looked a little bit older. She had a master's degree from someplace. And I was like, sure, let's see what Dr. Vicky has to say. If you couldn't tell from the tone of the subject, we're going to get a little bit sassy in this, all with love and with appreciation. We are all in different places. And if you watch the next video that I'm going to post, I don't know why I just picked this up. I guess I needed it for emphasis. I am going to post something else that happened in Sedona, my really extraordinary experience I had. So I finally choose Dr. Vicky. And I'm thinking about what is my intention. I go up. She is several decades older than her picture. It's okay. No problem. No problem. And she sits down, we sit down, she asks me, what's your intention? And I say, well, I am a practicing psychic. I feel like it's always good to let people know that you're on this similar wavelength. Of course, she doesn't know what that means. But I say, I do a lot of things, but mediumship isn't really a part of what I do. So I would be interested to know if there are any messages from loved ones on the other side. And I really feel like I'm on the right track, but if you can see anything that's tripping me up, any subconscious beliefs, any blocks, I would love to clear those. I would love to clear those. And she goes, okay, great. There's someone who loves rock and roll. I said, oh, okay. I wonder who that is. I'm thinking my grandfather, my grandmother, like maybe it's someone my husband knows because he's a musician. And she said, their name starts with a J. And I said, ooh, I don't know. I got nothing. She said, okay. So she let that go. And then she said, I'm going to use a pendulum and I'm going to check your chakras. I bet you've never worked with a pendulum, have you? And I said, oh, I've actually been working with a pendulum for over 20 years. She said, oh, okay. She checks my chakras, root chakras clear, sacral chakras clear. She goes all the way up. All my chakras are clear. So then she says, I'm going to check your other chakras. I bet you didn't know you had other chakras. I said, oh, actually I did. She said, oh, okay. So she uses her pendulum. She goes, your 8th chakra is clear. Your 9th chakra is clear. Your 10th chakra is opening up. Your 10th chakra of wisdom is opening up. I said, wonderful. Great. What happens after the 10th chakra? She said, well, after the 10th chakra is the 11th chakra. And when the 11th chakra opens up, that's when you can bilocate, which if you're not familiar with bilocation, it means being in more than one place at once. I said, cool, totally down to bilocate. She said, what will happen is you'll hear music. You'll hear music inside your head. And that's how you'll know it's happening. So I said, cool, sign me up. I'm down for that. And then we were talking a little bit more. She said, so do you want to work more, don't you? I said, no, I actually want to work less. She said, oh, okay. I said, I'd like to make more money. And she said, well, raise your prices. You got to raise your prices. And then she starts giving me a little bit of a lecture on how I should raise my prices. And I said, okay, I'll just receive that. Thank you. And then she was asking me, I was just looking at my notes over here because I want to make sure I didn't miss anything of my psychic reading with Dr. Vicky. And then she spent the next, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes of my 45-minute session writing very slowly on a piece of paper some information about numerology. And of course, she said, have you studied anything with numerology? And I said, yes, I have. Like, ask me something hard. Just kidding. And she said, okay, well, it's a 3-year for you, and it's all about fun, and it's all about doing the work, but you don't have any work to do. How do you like where you live? She was moving into 2027, 2028. And I said, I really love where we live, but we might need a little more space or a different layout. My husband really needs an office, but I don't really see us moving, outside of LA. And she writes down very slowly on the piece of paper, Austin, and a question mark, and kind of looks at me with a little bit of a little bit of sauce. And she was like, what about Austin? It's a music town. And I said, I don't see me and my jazz musician husband moving to Austin anytime soon. And she said, well, it might be project-based. And I said, okay, Dr. Vicky, okay, if a project-based thing that's a long-term opportunity for me and my jazzy musician husband comes up, I will call you and I'll be like, you nailed it. But that seems pretty unlikely today, but anything can happen. Anything can happen. And then we went back to the J name. She said, there's the guy it's a guy and he loves rock and roll. His name is Joe. His name is Joe. And he thinks your life is really fun. And I still just went, no, can't think of anybody. And she goes, oh, well, you know how it is with mediumship. You don't have any issues with anyone on the other side. So they're not available. And I was like, I don't think that's how mediumship works, but okay. Later, I did ask my husband if he knew anyone named Joe on the other side who likes rock and roll and would think our life is really cool. And he said, no, I don't. So then she says, well, I know you always want to know what's next. You always want to learn. You always want to grow. What do you want to learn next? And I said, I'm kind of interested in trance channeling, maybe. She goes, oh, you don't want to do that. Everyone wants a Bashar. Do you really want to let yourself be possessed by an entity? I said, well, I think I'm pretty discerning on the energies I work with, and it feels like it could be a really cool adventure. She said, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. I said, okay, well, I'm also interested in working with psychedelics and plant medicine. I've considered learning more to be able to facilitate. Oh, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to give up your consciousness to a plant. I've done my fair share. I'm a child of the 60s, but that's not how it goes. I said, well, I've worked with some indigenous practitioners. Like, I'm very interested in the traditional methods of working with these medicines. She said, okay. But I had a friend who moved to Ecuador to do that. And he did so much that he got in trouble. And I said, oh, okay. Okay. I'll keep that in mind, Dr. Vicky. And then she said, but mediumship, you were interested in mediumship. You could go to the Monroe Institute. You could go to Virginia. You could go to the Monroe Institute. When your ears start ringing, that's how you know the spirits are around and they're ready to talk to you. And I said, cool, thanks. And that was about it. My 45 minutes was pretty much up at that point. I was not really impressed with my psychic reading, but it was also not for me. Dr. Vicky is not there for me. Dr. Vicky is for other people going to Sedona who need help understanding their energy and everything else and people who maybe do have issues with those who have crossed over. And then Dr. Vicky would be able to talk to them and give these people peace. But there's always something that comes from every experience you have. When I have clients who are talking about wanting to go or try a new event, a new spiritual event, I say, listen, even if it sucks, you're going to get a good story out of it. And there's usually at least some piece that is meant for you, even if it's just confirmation of where you are and how much you've grown and how far you've come. And it was really valuable to hear from Dr. Vicky that my chakras were all clear and that my 10th chakra is opening up. It gave me something to focus on for the rest of the trip, which again, subscribe so you see the next video I will post about my visit to Cathedral Rock Energy Vortex, which was the most intense experience in a vortex I've ever had. And something Dr. Vicky said actually came through. So stay tuned for that. And most of all, I got a really good story out of it. So those of you who follow me on Instagram overwhelmingly voted for me to share my experience. So here you go. Let me know moments that you like the most from this video down below in the comments. I read all your comments, and stay tuned for part 2 coming soon. Bye for now.